What up? Welcome in. This is Where There's a Will with Will Ford. Appreciate you being here. It's been a couple weeks. I went and visited one of my best friends from college, Andrew, who was on the pod a while ago. We talked some NHL, some hockey, big hockey guy, but went down to visit him down in Tampa, Florida. Got to meet his brother, which was really cool, and we went to the WWE Royal Rumble, which was just so fun. I mean, of all pay-per-views to go to, it's like that and WrestleMania. Those are the two pay-per-views you really want to go to. We didn't have any surprise entrants with like legends returning or anything like that, but ever since CM Punk has returned, I guess I've just hopped on the CM Punk bandwagon. I guess like as a kid growing up, you kind of like rooted for John Cena and like that Cena CM Punk iconic rivalry. I think as most kids did, but the more when you grow up, you realize how cool CM Punk was. It was really cool to hear his and the cult of personality hit. It was unreal. Didn't have a voice for a couple days, and then I came back from Tampa on Monday this week or last week, sorry, and then was like sick Tuesday through basically today, like just not well at all. Um, Especially on like Tuesday, Wednesday, it was really bad. Started getting better on Thursday, and then by the weekend I was mostly good. But we're back in the lab. You know what to do. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and you can also watch the video on my YouTube channel. Just search Where There's a Will with Will Ford on YouTube, and you'll find it. All the content's up there. I want to post more micro content, some clips to put out on Instagram and TikTok and so on and so forth. So uh, I I just feel like I have no time ever, and I more or less just need to post podcasts. So that's the plan. Is we're gonna do a couple of pods this week. Get ready for Super Bowl Sunday coming up. At the end of this week, and we close out the NFL season. Man, it's pretty sad that it's come to an end, but I said this a couple episodes ago. I'm kind of already mailing in the 2025 season because Mike McCarthy's coming back to coach the Cowboys. So really, this season and next season are already over for me. So I'm looking forward to 2026 when Bill Belichick's our coach, or something like that. Um, Deion Sanders, Mike Vrabel, whoever. I don't care. Somebody other than Mike McCarthy. But we'll talk about the Super Bowl a little bit, just some other things going on in the NFL. But yeah, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen on YouTube. Put the long form on Facebook as well. Put the link there. So make sure you tap in wherever you listen. Really appreciate everyone that does, everyone that has, and everyone that will eventually watch this and other future episodes. Really appreciate it. But let's start with something in the NBA, which I think is really interesting. So the Milwaukee Bucks fired their coach Adrian Griffin. Keep in mind I mean, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and they fire their coach. It's actually very similar to what the Cleveland Cavaliers did back in 2016 with David Blatt. They were the best team in the East. Fired Blatt, brought in Tyronn Lue, and they end up coming back from 3-1 down to beat the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. I'm not sure if that's going to happen with this Milwaukee Bucks team, although they're certainly talented enough to win a title this year. But they fire their coach. They bring in Doc Rivers. And, Doc has been okay through his first handful of games. But the funny thing is that he got selected to be the coach of the Eastern All-Stars this year, which the NBA didn't select him. They're just selecting the coach from the best team in each conference. And so in the West, it's um, I believe his name's Chris Finch with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then you have the coach of the Bucks. So it would have been Adrian Griffin, and now it's Doc Rivers, which is in a way kind of it's by default, so no one did this, but it's kind of laughable, I think, when you consider that the Bucks just fired their coach and Doc's been coaching for them for what, 5 games. Doc said that he wants to, give it up or like let his staff do it, or like the staff that was already in place, go to the All Star game and coach, which I think is fair and respectable, and it's a good job by Doc. And I'm sure Adam Silver will work things out, but it's really kind of funny how you know Doc Rivers has been out of basketball. He was broadcasting, a week and a half ago, and now he's on the sidelines, coaches 5 games, and oh, you're going to coach the All Star game. Like, what are you talking about? That's I thought that was pretty funny. But as far as Milwaukee's concerned, I'm really not sure if they're going to be a team that. I mean, they're a contender in the East for sure, but I'm not sure if they're a championship winning team this year. And Giannis is great. We know that how good Giannis is, but the thing with the Bucks is like Damian Lillard, great offensive player, one of the great offensive players of this generation, one of the best shooters, best scorers, and he's put up a 70 piece before. He can light it up, unlike most guys in this league. But he has aged a little bit, starting to show his age some. He's not been as consistent as an offensive player, and he's never been known for his defensive prowess. And so I think that's where the Bucks are really going to miss Drew Holiday come the playoffs. Is Drew was a guy that could get you 17, 18 a night offensively, but defense was where he really made his mark. Giannis is probably guarding the best player on the floor, but Drew is guarding the second best player on the floor and can switch off onto the best player at any time, and you have confidence that he's going to get a stop, force a turnover, whatever it is. The Bucks don't feel like a championship contender to me because of Dame's limitations defensively. And so while they might be better from an offensive standpoint, they're going to have to win some of these series by shootout. Like they're just going to have to score and score and score. Unless they make a big deal at the deadline coming up, I don't see the Bucks as a championship contender. But I mostly just wanted to highlight the fact that Doc is coaching the All Star game, and I just found that very interesting. All right, so over to the NFL. So Jim Harbaugh, Chargers, we knew that happened a while ago. We knew that was happening. I thought that was probably the only for sure lock when it came to coaches. I was very surprised that Ben Johnson decided to not take a job this year, as he's the hottest coordinator on the market, offensive coach, which is the way the league is going. And it seems like every year, like who's the next, you know, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Shane Steichen, who's the next hot young OC? That sounds horrible. Who's the next like great young offensive coach? And it seemed like it was Ben Johnson. Great success with the Lions, and he turns down both the Seahawks and the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders, I thought, was a very, very attractive job. Most cap space in the league going into this offseason. You have the number 2 pick in the draft. So outside of Caleb Williams, you have your pick at the litter for quarterback, whether it's Drake May, Jaden Daniels, could go Penix, McCarthy, I don't think is a first round pick, but like you have your choice at any quarterback you want outside of Caleb Williams. And who knows, maybe Washington decides to trade up to number 1 and you do get Caleb. That's an option too. But you have your pick at quarterback, a young quarterback to develop, bunch of cap space, new ownership. Washington seems like a great place to be. And Ben Johnson turned it down. It was a little surprised, and he's going to go back to the Lions and continue what they've got going on there. And honestly, the Lions, they have like a Jared Goff has one more year on his deal where he's making under $30 million, which is rare for a quarterback of his caliber. He is a top 10-ish quarterback, not doing a list, but he's a top 10-ish quarterback making under $30 million. It's a steal. And They got one more year of that before they have to pay him. Can you convince him to take a team-friendly deal that's maybe around $40 million, not 50 plus? If you can convince him to do that, then the window I think is extended because you have such young pieces, especially on offense. You drafted a couple of defensive guys too, like Aiden Hutchinson. Um, is entering his prime as a pass rusher, and he's still on his rookie deal. Jameer Gibbs and Sam Laporta were outstanding rookies. Amon-Ra St. Brown still on his rookie deal, and he makes almost next to nothing as a fourth-round pick. The Lions have a core for the future, and they made it to the NFC Championship this year. Arguably should have made it to the Super Bowl and won, or not won the Super Bowl, but won the NFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl. And I think they're going to be now in that NFC Championship picture for the next, depending on Jared Goff's contract, next year for sure, but likely the next couple of years after that, with all these guys still on rookie deals. You really maximize, you know, the talent that they have, assuming they all stay healthy and whatnot. Dan Campbell just has to be a little. I love the aggressiveness from Dan Campbell, but there's aggression, and then there's just borderline, just not thinking logically. Had a chance to go up 3 scores with a field goal, and then a chance to tie the game late with a field goal, and you went for it both times. Um, and I appreciate his brutal honesty and you know not not moving off of his stance on those. I mean, that's just what he's done in building his culture. Is like at 4th and 3, wherever we are, we're gonna go for it every single time. It's not about no faith or a kicker. It's just that we've decided that's the kind of football team we're gonna be. If it's 4th and 3 and in, we're going. And I respect it. I just think when you're playing a team that was down like the 49ers, sure, if you pick up that first down, it's kind of the knockout, or not necessarily a knockout, but like it becomes almost insurmountable for San Francisco. But if you just tack on a field goal, 3 scores in the third quarter is it's a lot. And San Fran was already struggling, and when you're down 3 scores, it gets exponentially harder, especially mentally, to think that you can come back from that. Um, But nonetheless, I still think the window for the Lions is open, and it's even more open as they retain Ben Johnson. They don't have to bring in a new OC, new offense with this young core that they have and a cheap Jared Goff. Now, finally, let's preview this Super Bowl matchup a little bit. San Francisco 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, whoever doubted the Chiefs? Not me. Just kidding. I did. My pick for the Super Bowl going into the championship rounds would have been Baltimore and San Fran. Although Detroit almost proved us all wrong and got to the Super Bowl, but anyway, like Baltimore really just pooped themselves as far as their offensive game plan goes. I mean, they didn't run the football. That's what they do. They're the best running team in the league. They didn't run it, and they were trying to turn Lamar Jackson into Patrick Mahomes back there, and I mean, he's a good thrower, very improved and underrated as a pocket passer, but he has to run. That makes the offense. That's what opens up things in the pocket for Lamar, is when he's able to run effectively. He had a big run early in the game in the first quarter, and then it just almost never went back to it. Gus Edwards, uh, a really solid back, hardly touched the ball. And I just think that was a mistake by Harbaugh and by Todd Monken. Monken should have answered for that in a press conference. I don't know why he didn't, but it's a big failure for Baltimore, given that they were, the best rushing offense and I believe the number 1 or number 2 scoring defense, you know, in the league all year. And that just proves why you just don't bet against Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid. I mean, arguably their worst year to this point. I mean, struggles all season long, most drops in the league. You have Kadarius Toney, being a buffoon out there, just not he kept dropping everything, lining up off sides, um, and this and that and the other, and it just seemed like it never ended with him. MVS struggled throughout the year too. Um, but it just seems like when they get into these moments, Travis Kelsey was also just hobbled. It seemed like all year, every other play he was limping. But when it comes to playoff time, I mean, champions kind of rise from the ashes, and that's exactly what they did. And Travis Kelsey he passed Jerry Rice for the most receptions in playoff history. And now in every statistical category for a wide receiver slash tight end, uh, Travis Kelsey is either number one or number two in receptions, yards, touchdowns, 100-yard games, multiple touchdown games, and he's either leading in those categories and second is Jerry Rice, or he is second in those categories and Jerry Rice is number one. The greatest receiver of all time. He played for 20 years, and Travis has done this in a little over a decade. It's pretty insane. He is without a doubt the best pass catching tight end of our lifetimes and or ever. And Tony Gonzalez was great, and Shannon Sharp fantastic, and I love Gronk. Gronk might be the best all around tight end, considering what he could do in the run game. He's just such a physical blocker. But if you're talking pass catching, it's Kelsey all the way. Also, like love Jason Witten. Witten was an outstanding run blocker, but just maybe the greatest all-time security blanket in those short to intermediate routes. You need a first down on 4th and 6. He runs the perfect route against man coverage and or zone, whatever it is. He beats the defense every time. Like there are so many great tight ends in NFL history, and Travis Kelsey has cemented himself as the best. And him and Mahomes go into another Super Bowl. They're fourth in 5 years, and I can't bet against them again against this San Francisco team. They matched up against each other 4 years ago, but things are a little bit different now. Kansas City relies mostly on its defense, and then you know great veteran play from their quarterback, their tight end, and play calling from their head coach. And San Fran, they were a defensive team, defensive reliant. Um, in the first matchup and not a great offense. But now it's that they have a really, really good offense with McCaffrey and Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, and but their defense, especially in the front four, not as good, and on the back end at safety, not as good. It's talented, but not what it was 4 years ago. And the Chiefs 4 years ago, it was one of the best offenses of all time with Tyreek and a younger Travis and Mahomes had just burst onto the scene. And I mean, like it seems like it's almost a role reversal now. And who wins this time? Right now, I lean Chiefs, but we'll come back to it later in the week. But I saw something, and I listen to a lot of Colin Cowherd. He's kind of my sports talk radio idol. I listen to the herd almost every day. I listen to Three and Out with John Middlecoff pretty much every day. Whenever they have new drops, I try to listen as often as I can. And him and Colin do pods together. John and Colin do. And I don't know if this was in a pod with John Middlecoff today or if this was just Colin doing his own podcast. I'm not sure. I haven't checked their feed, but I did see a clip and said Colin was saying if Brock Purdy struggles in the Super Bowl and really he coughs up the football a couple times, turns it over, and the Chiefs win, does Sam Darnold compete for the job week 1 next year? And I think that that's absolutely ludicrous to say. And Brock has not been great in this playoff run. I'll admit that. I mean, 6 of the 8 quarters that he's played, he has not been good. Um, Great comeback, kind of mid third and fourth quarter against Detroit, and then one great drive, the final drive against Green Bay to win the game. Um, outside of that, he has not been good, but he does stay calm, cool, collected. The moment never seems too big for him, and that means something. That means a lot, especially going into your first Super Bowl when you can stay level-headed like that. But he's a seventh round pick. It's his second year in the league. He's starting in his first Super Bowl. You got to the Super Bowl in part because of Brock. Yeah, sure, he struggled in the majority of both playoff games, but he still got you there. He was an MVP candidate, during the season, and I don't think he should have been. I don't think he's the most valuable player on his team. I think McCaffrey and Debo mean a lot more to that offense. Um, and I do think that Sam Darnold would be productive in San Fran systems, and I do think that San Fran would win a lot of games, probably win the division. But he is far more too turnover prone, and I think he would make the big mistake in the playoffs. They would not. I don't know if they would have won that Detroit game, maybe not even the Packer game, if Sam Darnold was the quarterback, just because Sam takes more chances and he is a bit more turnover prone, because he is a more gifted and more talented arm. Um, Brock is just an elite processor, is accurate, and he's just needed a half to kind of get into a rhythm. This is his second playoff run. Um, and last year he was just kind of thrown into it. This year he started like if Sam Darnold was going to compete with Brock for the job, he would have started week 1 of this year. And so I think it's wild to say that if Brock struggles in a Super Bowl against the reigning Super Bowl champs and the best defense, not only remaining, but probably the best defense in football, I don't see that as a massive deal because San Fran will likely, assuming they stay healthy, they'll be in the exact same spot next year. They'll be in that conference championship Super Bowl mix. Brock will go into year 3, another year of development, and just another year of seeing defenses. And he's on the cheap. He makes $750,000 a year, and you've got 2 more years of it. So that really allows that it gives San Fran so much flexibility to be able to do whatever they want with the cap, spend anything on anybody at any position. And they've got a lot of valuable pieces, you know, already, shored up. The only issue is like some of these guys are starting to age a little bit. How healthy will they be? McCaffrey will be another year older. Debo tends to get banged up a little. Trent Williams will be, in his upper 30s. Um, the window is not wide. It's not wide open for San Fran, but they have this year, next year, and maybe the year after of being in that mix to win a Super Bowl. And to say that you're not going to start Brock next year if he loses the Super Bowl, I think that's very overreactionary, if that's a word. Um, but we will dive into more of this game and predict it later on in the week. And yeah, really appreciate you making Where There's a Will part of your day. Subscribe wherever you listen, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, it's on SoundCloud too. You can watch on YouTube. And yeah, I will catch you later on in the week. But this is Where There's a Will. See you later.